Hey y'all, what's going on? This is your man Sabir Lean. What's happening? What's popping? Yeah, another episode of Daddy's right here live. Yeah, great day above ground. What's happening, y'all? Let me get this one over here going on. Get on the 1-2 camera there. Close this out here. Because you start hearing things in the background, don't know where they came from. And there's some stuff you got going on. But anywho, yeah. So as you see, almost done in the lab here. Got to make some minor adjustments in here, but I'm actually in the space now, and you'll probably hear a difference. I know I hear a difference because this area here that I'm in is typically where I do my recording. So I just made some adjustments in this area where I can sit here and make it a studio space. Period. And you don't need a whole lot of space now, mind you. You don't need a whole lot of space, but you need the right, insulations and acoustic concealing and confining uh, applications, and you get a whole different feel. So, in here I'm able to sit here and feel of the difference. Yeah, the sound is different. It's more isolated, and it's just warmer. My music is in this space, so everything is right here in this one space. You see the deck back here, the mic back here, and peace of mind back here. I haven't had anybody to play with for years, and I'm not one of those people who actually sits and plays by himself. I can never get into that. I can't do the electronic chess. I always get my ass handed to me. But playing on here and by myself, I just haven't gotten that. But at some point I'll show you the rest of the area because it's going to be the production area for Aline. Yeah, start the product line, uh, where clothing, apparel, well, clothing or apparel, but apparel, um, and other customized cups, mugs, plates, bags, all those things like that, which will be under the name Aline. Yeah, so that should be coming in the next few weeks. You'll be able to find it on, some platforms where you can easily access it. It won't be a website set up right now. That's just not the way to move product. The best way to move product is to make use of these other platforms that people are on all the time. And that's where, I'll be going with that. You'll find me at some flea markets. You'll find me at, community activities, events and things of that nature, selling the wares. But you won't get these things anywhere else. Trust me. I'm an artist. I pen and ink is my thing. Graphic design is my thing. I do digital, but I mix digital with my penmanship. Yeah, I'm good with the pen, man. So stay tuned. Yeah, you're going to be seeing some stuff, man, that you won't find anywhere else. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. We're going to have some designs, man, that are just going to blow you away, and you'll be back for more. But anywho, yeah, anywho, um, you ever like wonder why you keep finding yourself, in situations with people, and no matter what it is that you do, it always turns out to be chaos. I was just having a conversation the other day with a group of people about how they fuel situations and how it's one thing to, you know, tell me that, well, if this person does this person does that, so on and so forth. But then when you feed that situation with your own negativity, with your own bias, right, you are guilty as they are. So you can't keep saying, well, it's them, it's them, it's them. We make adjustments within our character when we feel like it, when we feel like it. And you're not going to get good results at all. you have to learn to be consistent with who you are. And just because you are who you are, don't mean that other people have to accept you for who you are. They don't. Nobody is obligated to accept anything about you. You made the choice to be this way. You live with it. Don't tell me I have to live with your bad behavior, your negativity, your disrespect, your condescending attitude. Don't tell me I have to accept any of that, because I don't. I don't. And we find ourselves in a lot of these types of relationships. And no matter what, we always wind up finding ourselves arguing with these people, feeling bad within ourselves while everything else is hunky dory about their lives. They're not going to do anything different. It's your responsibility to do something different. You have to become more tolerant, not accepting it. You have to learn how to be more tolerant, right? You have to look at your tolerance level. When your tolerance level gets out of control, right, you have to manage it, not the other person. Not the other person. Prisons and graveyards are filled with people who didn't manage their emotions appropriately, right? Yeah. Prisons and graveyards are full of people. No matter what, if you stay this way for 30, 40, 50 years, and because you see no outcome such as that which I mentioned, doesn't mean that it's not coming. Doesn't mean that you're not going to run into one of those people who are going to put you in a place you don't want to be, simply because you refuse to do anything different about how you deal with that person. Bottom line, you have to do something different, because they're not going to. And you're foolish to think that to expect that they're going to do something today because you smiled today. Yeah. Because you extended an olive branch of sorts to them. And you think that they're going to do something different. You think that they're going to receive it. No. No. And love doesn't cure all. So let's stop with that. Let's stop with that love cures all, because it doesn't. Love causes a lot of hurt and pain and suffering. Right? So if you know anything really about love, you should know that, and not think that you're going to turn around and turn a negative situation into a loving, caring, and empathetic and sympathetic situation, because you're not. I don't care what anybody says. Use yourself as an example. Share with me, post it, where you had a situation where love conquered the chaos, the negativity. No, love didn't do it. You did something different. Maybe it's the love that you gave to yourself. It wasn't the love that you gave to the other person. Maybe it's the love that you gave to yourself. Then that would be a valid statement. When you give yourself that kind of love and you stop putting yourself in those kind of situations, that's when it changes. So love can conquer all in that aspect, but you can't love somebody's negativity away. You can't. And even though you scratch the surface, it's just a superficial relationship because they haven't healed within themselves. You've done something different, but when faced with the same situation with somebody else, they do the exact same thing. So love did not conquer or heal anything. It did not. It didn't. How many of you have been in relationships or in relationships now where you're trying to love away the difficulty? You wake up every day, every morning, you say to that person, good morning, or you fall short of growling and hissing at them, whatever it is that you do. Whatever it is that you do, you're still there. You still love that person. Has anything changed about that person? Yeah, you look at the superficial stuff. But what you don't look at is when they're faced with a situation where they have like not developed any tolerance, they act the same damn way. Oh, he only acts like that when he's been drinking. Why is he drinking like that then? You ever ask yourself that question? Why does he drink that way? There's a deeper problem, and you can't love that away. You cannot love that away. And I say this over and over again, and you can probably see several videos where I've said this. You can't take a person away from a place that they choose to be. You can't. That's something that happens within them, that they decide that I want to stop feeling like this. I want to stop being like this. I want to stop acting like this. And I'm going to take control of my life and do something. You cannot make somebody change. I'm a damn clinician. I've been doing it for 30 years with serious and persistent mental illnesses, substance abuse, all that. I don't have the power to change anybody. I can only give somebody the information, and they have to make the choice to use that information to have a better life. Period. I don't have time to try to change anybody. I'm working on changing me. I'm working on changing me because I'm a facilitator of change, because I'm a change agent. Doesn't mean I have the power to change anybody. It simply means that I have some information that I have gathered throughout the years of my life, experience and professional, that I can provide you with some information that hopefully you'll take. But I'm only guiding you towards self-discovery. I'm not telling you what your problem is. I'm not telling you what your solution is. In the sense that do this and that'll change. No, take a look at this and look at how it's working for you, how it's not working for you. I don't do the back and forth. There's no need of doing the back and forth. For what? You made a conscious decision to do or not do a thing. If I ask something of you and you fail to respond to it, I'm not going to ask you again. For what? What am I asking you again for? What you forgot? You forgot? And I'm saying in the sense that if I'm asking you, if I'm coming to you and I'm saying to you, hey, listen, this is becoming a problem. And notice I said this is becoming a problem. So that means I'm getting ahead of the curve. I'm letting you know ahead of time. Right? Becoming. Right? So if I'm telling you that and you are committed as you profess to be, then you should be internalizing what I'm saying to you, because that's why we call each other significant others, because what I'm saying to you, what I represent to you is of significance. So if I am significant to you, what I'm saying to you must be of significance to me. Therefore, you should be listening with a very attentive ear. And I know we encounter things, over and over again, but just bear in mind that a person doesn't have to continue to debate the same issue over and over again. And I found myself, and I'm sure many of us found ourselves, in a situation where we're arguing about the same thing over and over and over and over again. In marriage, that may be something that you do, a little more frequently. And I don't mean frequently in the terms of keep bringing it up. I'm just saying that you might find yourself, rehashing the same thing over and over again. But it intensifies because it becomes more ingrained and embedded in the marriage. But girlfriend, boyfriend, and whatever else that but what I'm saying is that it has to be significant to you if it's coming from me to you. Because although the marriage may stay together, you will find that bad taste still lingering in your mouth. And it just adds a layer onto other things between you and I and my own existing trauma. Yeah, we all have trauma. Whether you want to deal with it or not, it's entirely up to you. How you deal with it is entirely up to you. But we all have some unresolved. We just learn how to manage it. But if you're paying attention to yourself and you're truly trying to grow and develop out of a box that you have put yourself in and you've allowed others to put you in and keep you in, then it's just going to be a problem. Right? I'm not allowing anybody to put me in a box. I have been, through enough relationships, marriages, to know the difference between somebody who is just like selfish in their conditioning and not going to do anything different. It's going to always be that way. You're going to always find yourself, like literally begging for what you deserve to have in this relationship. Right? If you have to beg somebody to love you in whatever capacity they have learned to love you, then that's a problem. Anybody who you have, with you should be your joy, your peace, right? And that's outside of marital relationship or significant other kind of relationship as well. Why you got people around you who are just like chaotic? Some people you just talk to and they always got drama. They always got something going on. They always mad about something. They always upset about something, right? So you have to begin to look at. See, I'm about growth. I'm about personal growth. And what I've learned throughout the years is because people don't pursue personal growth, they focus on changing people around them. Their lives are just a mess, a hot mess, as we used to say, a hot mess, right? It's just a hot mess. Put it on both sides. I'm not trying to do any promotions for these people. Get any checks. So today's subject matter, yeah, chaos in action, right? Now understand also that chaos is in fact a theory, right? Chaos theory, and maybe we'll talk about that next week. But chaos is a theory, and the theory is very significant in our lives, and social conditioning, all that stuff is right there. It's a theory that keeps things going. You see in the society today, you watch television, you see all these things happening in social media, right? These narratives that are constantly being pushed. Well, these narratives are intentionally being pushed in the way that they are, right? Because they make things happen. They make things happen. They keep the masses going at each other. They keep all kind of stuff going. They keep the divide going, right? It's a theory that is a very successful theory. But that's, another subject matter. So this article from Psychology Today, yeah, my favorite spot. The author, Susan Heitler, PhD, right? The title of the uh, article is about anger and what makes conflict. How are conflicts resolved? Couples do best when both partners have strong conflict resolution skills. Excuse me. Let me repeat that for everybody in front. Couples do best when both partners have strong conflict resolution skills. Difficult to happen, but it's possible. And it's even more possible when you have a willing partner, a partner who doesn't see that you have strong conflict resolution skills or any other skills. If your partner sees those things as a threat to them, then it will continue to spiral rapidly down the rabbit hole. But when you have partners who are both open to learn about themselves, how they affect one another. Listen, I may have great conflict resolution skills, but how do I respond to or react to a concern that my significant other has, my partner has? How do I respond to those things? Am I trying to resolve the conflict that's within her, or am I trying to resolve the conflict for the benefit and the sake of her because she's significant to me, right? So if she tells me that there's something happening with her, which is a result of me, she's not blaming me. She's simply saying that when you respond to me in this way, you talk to me in this manner, it makes me feel. And notice I use this a lot. It makes me feel. You didn't do it, but when this happens, you know, it makes me feel, or you make me feel like I'm unimportant to you. And it's not a blame. So I don't want you to be specific in wording, but it's a matter of when this happens between us, whether you say it makes me feel or you make me feel like I'm not important to you, it's not blaming you. But when we hear that and somebody says, you make me feel like I'm just like nothing to you. Oh, you blaming it on me? That's a person with poor conflict resolution skills. When you hear that kind of response, this is a person who's seeing themselves as more significant than the relationship between the two of you. I'm telling you the way it is. You can try to see it any other way you want to. I'm telling you the way it is. That's how it is. That person has poor conflict resolution skills because they have internalized their trauma so deeply that it's just second nature for them to automatically be defensive and offensive at the same time. Yeah, all that right out of the title, right? That's something. So let's go into the article. Conflict is a term that refers to situations in which two or more sides appear to be pulling or pushing in opposite directions. If the participants stay calm and friendly, we might refer to their way of dealing with the conflict as shared problem solving. If tensions emerge or anger escalates, the terms arguments or fights may be a better fit. In these sensitive situations, do you sometimes find yourself insisting on what you want? Do you hold back from verbalizing your perspective on some issues for fear that the conflict will erupt into a fight? This article explains how to address differences. In essence, to deal with conflict in a way that yields satisfaction for everyone involved. This same collaborative conflict resolution strategy can be used at home, at work, with friends, in business, in politics, in any venue where both parties would prefer to convert their conflicts into effective win-win problem solving. So one of the benefits I have as a clinician is that I've exposed myself to all these different methods of treatment. And when you say treatment, some people say, you saying I'm sick? I didn't say you're sick. I didn't say anything about you. I'm just saying that you have to understand what treatment is. Look up the word. What is treatment? Right? You go to a spa. What is that? Treatment. You get your nails done. What is that? Treatment. Right? It's bringing you some level of satisfaction within yourself. It does something for your esteem. Right? Your self-esteem. Right? Treatment. So I like to keep myself in treatment. I provide treatment. I keep myself in treatment. Right? So one of the things I learned many, many years ago was how to create a win win situation. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be understood. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Person comes to you about with something, right? You listen. They can be pissed off. You don't know why they're pissed off. You don't have an understanding. Try to get an understanding. You can help somebody get a better understanding of why the conflict, exists without blaming them, right? Because they're going to tell you what, I feel this way because of such and such and such and such and such and such. Okay, that's why they feel that way. So they just told you why they feel a particular way. So you have to, in this moment, become empathetic and understand their perspective on life. You don't have to accept it. You keep confusing accepting something with understanding something. You're just understanding their worldview, how they think, what makes them tick. That's all you're doing. You're trying to get them to understand. You're trying to come to understand what it is they deal with in life. You don't know people's. You don't know people's pasts. You don't know where they've been. You don't know where they're going. You don't know what kind of day they just had. You don't know any of those things, right? Have no idea. So you want somebody to walk away from the situation and feel like you heard them, and you want to be heard. So you want to feel like you've been heard first. So the best way to do that is listen to the other person. Listen to them first. Make eye contact. Give some affirmations, nodding your head and stuff like that. You give them affirmation, but you're making eye contact with them. For me, what I know that I do is like if you don't piss me off, I lose eye contact with you. I don't want to look at you. I just don't. I cut right off from you. I won't be disregarding of you, but it's like I lose eye contact. So I'll listen, I'll hear you, but in the meantime, my eye contact has parted ways with you because I just don't want to look at you right now. If we're not talking about my wife, we're talking about in other venues. But when I feel like I don't want to look at you right now. But for me, it's a matter of gathering my thoughts, managing my emotions in that situation, and forcing myself to listen, forcing myself to hear you out. Because one of the habits that I've worked on throughout my life is cutting in, right? Cutting in, and not cutting in because what the person is saying is not important, but because, like, I don't want to hear excuses. I hate when conflict comes up and people start giving excuses for their behavior instead of taking ownership, right? I just despise it. I loathe it. So it's a challenge for me to listen to BS. It is, because it's going to be the same thing over and over and over again. You're not taking ownership for what just happened, or you're not hearing me and my hurt, my pain, my difficulty. You're not hearing me. So again, uh, childhood trauma, wanting to be listened to and not being listened to, not being listened to, and how that plays out in my life. Because it does. It plays out in my life. Childhood trauma is real. It stays with you forever. It doesn't go away. It stays there. So let's go back to the article. Where do conflicts emerge? One, within oneself, which therapists refer to as intrapsychic conflict. Two, between oneself and one or more others. And three, between oneself and a circumstance, e.g., illness, financial difficulties, as I was saying. You know, it's things happening with people. You don't know what's happening with people. You know, and it's not our job to go find out, but it is our job, our responsibility to ourselves, not the other person, to not keep finding ourselves in a situation where we're like, listen. I don't do well with theatrics. I don't do well with people who get loud. I don't do well with people who want to argue back and forth. I don't do well with these folks. I had somebody I was talking to the other day, and she was asking me about a particular procedure, and it was like this. Well, why this and how come and why? Like you weren't listening to what I was saying to you. Like like I'm telling you, I already told you. I answered your question right from the door, and you still wanted to be persistent about why something the way it was. When it's like it's real simple. It's procedure. It's policy. That's not going to change because you're in disagreement with it. So I'd already stated that, and he just went on and on and on and on, and I just put my head down. Again, I lose eye contact. I just put my head down and say, listen, it's procedure. That's all I'm going to tell you. We're not going to discuss it any further. You're not going to get anything different from a different response from me. But right now, it's like I'm saying to myself, but right now you're irritating the hell out of me because you're not listening. You just want to instead of understanding. So I had to understand in the moment that this person is just you don't want to hear anything. You just want to complain. And you have people who do that. They're not looking for an answer. They're just looking to complain. They're just looking to irritate the situation. Some people are driven by that. You ever be around a person who all they doing is talking? Every time you say something, they have a damn answer for it. Right? I didn't ask a question. I'm talking, but you got an answer for what I'm talking about. You know, so you have to look at everything about you and that's happening when you look at conflict and what's going on and how it's the nonverbals that give you away too. You know, it's the nonverbals that give you away too. Back to the article. Often a conflict has aspects in two or even all three of these realms, which I just listed. For instance, if Joe feels conflicted about whether to leave his job, he is likely to experience conflicts within himself. His current salary is great, and at the same time, the hours are too long. If a loved one wants Joe to stay and he wants to leave his current job, the conflict has become interpersonal. And if Joe develops an illness, what he wants and the realities of what he needs to do to heal his healthy problem may conflict. You understand the difficulty here? So, hey, girl, mom. So, you have to understand the situations uh, that exist. And there's it's always like decisions we're making in life. There's always things that we want to change, we want to do better with, we want to see more of, we want to see less of. So we're always in decision making mode. We're always, wanting something different, about our lives in some capacity, right? No matter what it is. So, excuse me. So we're always in that mode. Excuse me. We're always in that mode of we're conscious in what we're doing in the moment, but the subconscious and the unconscious are working at the same time. See, this is the interpersonal. This is what said the conflict has become interpersonal. We have these layers of things going on in our lives that we're trying to manage. And sometimes, right in the moment, we can lose sight of certain things because we have all this going on inside of us. And then you're presented with a particular situation that just kind of interrupts that. And like for me, I don't like, I'm always in thought. I'm a thinker. I'm always planning. I'm always making moves in my head. I'm always thinking things through before, like you think, then move. You don't move then think. So I'm a think then move kind of person. And when I get to that point where I'm ready to move, I don't want anything in the way. I don't want anybody in the way. I don't want anything in the way. I don't want to be interrupted. Right? It's not about you. It's about me and where it is that I'm going. So I understand that about myself. So with Joe, like Joe doesn't, he loves the money, and it's funny. I had this a similar conversation uh, repeatedly, but you begin to see that later in life, although money is a necessity of living, when you look at those who are no longer here, if they had an opportunity to come back, what do you think they will be pursuing? More money or valuing that time that they have? So is it more money or more time? Right? Because if I'm making more money, but it's taking up 12, 10, 12, 13, 14 hours of my day, well, there's only 24 hours a day. I need to get some sleep. How much life am I really enjoying? How much of that time, excuse me, sorry, I'm gonna die right here on the TV. Somebody say, "Oh, why would you say something like that?" Listen, death is life. I don't know why. Life is death. We live to die. What the process of aging happens right from the point of conception. You need to accept death. If you're afraid of death, if you're fearing death, that's another interpersonal conflict because you fear death. How do you fear something that's inevitable? When you get your paycheck, taxes are coming out, aren't they? So, anywho, it's a whole nother conversation. So, anywho, um, you got all these things already going on. And then he looks at the fact that, well, if he gets sick, right? Because he's ready to leave his job, but then he turned, if a loved one wants Joe to stay and he wants to leave his current job, the conflict has become interpersonal. And if Joe develops an illness, what he wants, and the reality of what he needs to do to heal his health problem may conflict. Mm-hmm. So now, what does that do to you? Think about it. You want to leave your job, right? Money's good, hours are just too damn long, right? So you're trying to work this thing out within yourself. How you want to do that, right? But then you get sick, right? You get sick, and I'm not talking about like a cold or something. That's an illness that is going to require some medical management. Now what? What does that feel like? I'll never leave this job. I'll always be stuck here. You start looking at depression. You're depressed because you don't want to be here anymore. Because you're tired of the hours. You're tired of not having any kind of life. Now I have this illness. Now I have to accept this illness. I have to go through the difficulty of accepting the fact that I have this illness now, and I don't know what the future holds for, being healed, or if it can be healed, or is it a life-threatening, illness. I got to deal with all of this, so I'm just miserable. I'm just miserable. I've gone from situational depression to clinical depression. I'm gonna do another show on suicide. I haven't done a show on suicide in a minute, but It's real. Suicide is real, man. And as the changes continue to happen in our world, I was just talking to somebody this morning about retirement, having a retirement plan. And if you look at what you can, what I could, what kind of Social Security funds I look at if I was to retire now, and what kind of Social Security, what I'd be looking at when I'm 70. They make it look good for you to stay to your 70 because, you go, like, oh, I get this amount when I'm 70. Okay, this is what I'm eligible for now. I can get this amount. And you keep looking at that number, not looking at how our economy continues to change, how prices continue to go up, 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 how inflation is just raping us of every coin we have, right? That's not going to be anything, if it's even going to be there when I'm 70, right? Because the intent is to keep you they want to keep you focused on that number. They want you to focus on the number, that last number, right? And if they keep moving the needle, they're going to keep changing it. They're going to make 72, 73. And then you're going to be looking at that. I'm going to keep on working because that's the number that I'm looking at, because that's the number that you look at. You're not looking at right now. You're looking at right now. Well, I can keep on doing this right now. I can keep on doing this right now. I feel strong. I'm still motivated. I'm still enthused about what it is that I do. And then you look at that. Yeah, I can do this. I can do that. And then what you'll find yourself in about another year or two, you start feeling, then like you feel now about wanting to retire. And then you right back there again. But then when you look at the numbers is only increased by a couple $100, not a couple $1,000, a couple $100. So you keep working and working and working and working, and then you don't really see any change until like that year, the year before the cutoff of 70, right? So 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, you look at all that, and it's only increased by a couple $100. That's all. So you keep looking at the long-term number. Well, yeah, I can live off that. No, how? How? You got people eating cat food who have pensions and Social Security and working part-time. So just think how he feels. I'll never be able to stop working. This job is going to kill me. Right? So back to the article. Bickering, arguing, or getting insistent indicates someone who is unskilled at handling conflicts in a collaborative way. So does going silent about your perspective. Right? So if you're saying nothing, if you just let the other person talk, well, a non-controlling person will certainly begin to be in control of your life unbeknownst to them. And if it persists, then that person begins to abuse that silence, and they now become an abuser of you. Just like me being an accommodating person, my experience throughout my previous marriages were my being so accommodating and so patient and so tolerant has often worked to my detriment. So you have to make sure that you have some balance, right? You can't sit silent all the time. First of all, because if you sit silent all the time, then your needs are not being met because you're not being heard. You're making yourself insignificant, and you're thinking that the person sees you as insignificant, but you've made yourself insignificant by not speaking up. I noticed the change in my partner. Right? I watch the body language. I listen to the voice tone. I look in the eyes. You have to pay attention to things, right? Um, so you don't want to be silent. Eventually, you're going to explode, and eventually, all those things that you contain within yourself are going to come out. It's going to come out wrong, and you're going to bring a laundry list out of things. And the person had no idea. Your partner had no idea all this was going on with you. Now you're still in the bad place because now you have to recover from all of this that you have internalized in this little bunker inside of yourself. Your partner didn't know anything about, so now they're feeling bad that they truly love you. They're feeling bad about all the things you just laid out in front of them, and they're feeling shame, guilt, and embarrassment. Then on top of that, they're wondering why you never said anything and how dare you. And like, I thought you got a whole bunch of, so you see how this just snowballs. If you're in a relationship with a person who has poor or no problem solving skills, walk away, walk away, walk away, run. If they have not been taking steps to work on those things, I'm telling you now. I'm telling you now. It will always be bickering. It will always be arguing. It's going to always be that. You're not going to get anything different. You're not. The thing about marriage is you have to be a lot more tolerant of stuff. The thing about marriage is you have to accept some things, not just understand. You have to accept some things. But it's just some things, I tell my staff is I said, there's some things we can talk about, and there's some things we just can't talk about. It's just some things are just unacceptable in your behavior, and for you to think that it's okay to do that speaks volumes. Don't never think for a minute that somebody who treats you poorly, and that's your significant other, they treat you poorly. They try to control your life. They speak badly and towards you, about you. Don't think, listen, that ain't love. Don't bypass that. Don't skip over it. Don't minimize it. You need to make it very clear. If you ever address me in that capacity again, we are done. And you might be done in that moment. Simply because if you think that it's okay to treat me like that, to talk to me that way, what does that say about who I am to you? I don't care how angry you get. You don't berate your partner. You don't do it. If you feel that way about that person, maybe it's time to move on. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. My previous marriages, I don't have any bad blood with any of them. My brother asked me about one time. Boy said, "Bro, how you get divorced and all that stuff, and y'all still like?" Because I tell him, I said, it's not about. In the end, it's not about who did this and who did that. You got two good people in a situation that just don't work. I don't need to hate you. For what? I make the selection. I can make the rejection. I have that right. I don't have to tolerate your behavior. That's continuing to divide us, destroy us, and to destroy me. Being in a relationship, being in love, being in a marriage is devastating. You have to change so much about yourself. You have to make so many compromises. And for people to minimize that statement, right, they're foolish. Because you can't be in a relationship with somebody and not sacrifice all these things and not have expectations, and these things are not fulfilled, and now it's time to part ways, and you want to tell me you good with that? That you're not damaged by it? Man, get out of here. Get out of here. You must be high, right? It takes so much out of an individual to be in a relationship with another person, especially when you're living together, right? So, back to the article, talking in an irritated tone of voice, becoming insistent on your way, ignoring what the other person says, blaming, attacking, and using anger to bully others into doing what you want, or heaven forbid, going to war, all indicate collaborative dialogue skill deficits. I just told you that. And again, a reminder, I don't read these articles. I don't pre-read these articles, right? I look at the title, I peruse some of the content to see you know, if my spirit can ride with it, because my spirit ain't always, I don't, I can plan shows and whatnot, but when I do Daddy's Right Here, I find that it's best for me to do what's on my spirit, right? What my spirit gravitates toward, because I can intellectualize anything, right? But my spirit, it has to like grab at my spirit, and it's not for me totally. I mean, it's not for you totally. It's for me too, right? When I see these things, so these are the kind of things that I do to help keep me grounded, to help keep me growing, to help keep me in the mode of becoming a better person today than I was yesterday, right? So talking in an irritated tone of voice, right? And you know when you're irritated, right? You don't know why you're irritated all the time because you're blaming the situation. It's not the situation; it's your belief about the situation. We talked about that last week too. Using ABCs of conflict resolution. A, activating event. What's causing you know what just happened, right? What was the event? What's your belief about the event? So now because you're irritated now, so you have a belief about the event that just took place, and it's irritated you. It's irritated you. You gotta look at your belief about the event, and what are the consequences of that belief, not the consequences of that event, because you're gonna probably be in that see that event again. But if you don't change the belief about that event, then you're going to have the same consequences. You're going to have the same consequences, right? Excuse me, y'all. Got something going on here in my throat. Okay, back to the article. Conflict resolution also takes knowledge of the three-step resolution process. Without clarity about these three steps, participants are likely to end up in a tug of war for whose way will win and who will lose. This kind of adversarial process gets settled by who has more power. Unlike the win win plan of action, that is the goal of collaborative conflict resolution. So, for me, in most cases, I can honestly tell you that I gave the power away. That I was the one who was just typically, the one who was willing to yield, was willing to compromise, seeking a win win outcome, and hoping that there was going to be some kind of change in the situation. Um, and I can tell you that I always lost. Being accommodating, being an enabler. Excuse me. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know what's happening here in my throat. But, and just being a loving, caring, empathetic, and patient person, has often worked to my detriment. And I've had to learn that throughout the years. Um, and it's been a growth process for me. But the balance is what's important because I've endured all of those things and I've had the outcomes that I've had of walking away from situations empty handed after investing years into a marriage. um, I've learned to take a different approach in terms of not being too this or to that, but in still being that, um, because that's the person I am. But just knowing where the line is, you have to draw a line. You have to draw a line. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. You have to draw a line um, when it comes to your sanity. Your mental health, your spiritual health, and if those are out of whack, then you start looking at your medical health and your physical health, which are affected by stress. So you have to look at these steps that we're going to go into real quick because we're going to have to wait for those steps because we're at the hour. Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll get to the steps next week, so you can start looking at some solutions as to how to bring things to resolve. I often hear people talk about how significant marriage is, and then this is what God has bestowed upon us, and how how God hates divorce, and yeah, but there's if you read, there are permissions given for the process uh, when you're trying to bring resolve within your marriage, and then divorce is in fact permissible. No, God doesn't want anybody to be miserable. You can't make me believe that one. It's written as such. I don't know what scripture you're reading, but there are permissions. But there's also guidance and guidelines in scripture of what you should be doing to bring resolve between you and your wife, your husband. There's guidance to tell you that. Period. You took your vows. You had somebody recite the vows of what this means between us. That there should be no enmity between us. That there should just be love. Between our hearts, and it tells you that this is what man and this is what woman does in this circumstance of marriage. And if you go back when you come upon difficulty, you come back and you read that. Because if you keep going on your own thinking, the conditioning that you've had in this life and your traumas and all that, you're going to miss all of that. So the part of being in alignment with what God expects for you to do, right, in this situation has laid out for us to do in these circumstances. If you're not going, if that's not your go-to source, then that's not going to work. It's not going to work. Real simple. It's not going to work. So don't say that you're going to God when you call yourself a believer, whatever it is your faith is, and you have guidance in front of you to tell you how to bring that to resolve. You have the stories that told you what happened in this situation, and this is why this became such. Right? It's written right in front of you. And if that's what you profess to believe, that's what you should be going to. Right? It's one thing to say you're going to, you're going to speak to the minister, the pastor, the imam, or whoever, but that's not God. That person is is supposed to be taken from the context from the same reference guides that you have, and that person is only giving you that which comes from within them, that's layered within them own selves, their own values and beliefs. But you have to read and get an understanding that's befitting for you. For you. Listen, learn about you and what your needs are. Stop shortchanging yourself and remaining or entering into relationships where you're not happy. And you'll find that most of your unhappiness has nothing to do with that other person. You're not happy within yourself. You're not happy within yourself. And you're expecting that other person to fill that emptiness that you have. The emptiness you have. Right? That emptiness should be filled with God first and foremost. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about a connection to a power greater than yourself that gave you breath this morning if you woke up, right? That gave you the ability to put one foot in front of the other. And if you don't have that foot, to still have one foot, right? If you don't have the ability to see where you're going through eyesight, you have the ability to move along with the guidance and the help of others or with some other man-made instrument so you can continue to breathe, do everything else, right? That others may not have the ability to do today. See, gratitude is the foundation of good living. If you're not grateful for another day above ground, start there. Remember, somebody didn't get this day. For me, life is not about me. Life is about others. I take care of me so I can be an instrument, a guide. That's why I take care of me. For you. Because helping others helps me. I want to solidify my spot. That's the foundation I live on. That brings me joy in itself. But when you're not happy within yourself, nobody's going to make you happy. You can't make somebody happy. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet. That's all you're doing. You're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet. It's going to continue to seep. It's going to continue to become diseased, infected, and everything else. That's all it's doing. I'm not going to spend the years of my life in misery in any capacity. And when you're constantly going at it with somebody else because of their perspectives on things not changing and being who they are, that's what you're ultimately doing. Let it go. Just let it go. Move on. If it's that bad for you dealing with somebody at work that they they're just always a knucklehead and you can't just understand that they're a knucklehead and you get some tolerance, then we'll leave your job. And let me know how that works for you. Because it's one at the other job too. You gonna leave that job? Come on, this is you. This is not the other person. It's not the other person, it's you. Y-O-U. Well, we are at the hour. And I thank you as always for tuning in to the show. You can be doing anything else with your time, whether it's on a Saturday morning that I'm doing the show or Monday night. You guys have always been there. And I thank you so much. Y'all have a great weekend. I'm your host as always, Severe Lane. Peace.